Hey, what's up, eskate fam? Welcome to range test reveal. That's what it is. I'll tell you straight off the bat, the Verreal RS with this setup right here got me 53 kilometers range. So let me tell you a little bit more about this actual setup. As of the time of recording this video right now, the battery I have in this board isn't actually available. It will be very soon. It may well be by the time you're watching this, but at the time of recording this, it's not. It will be released very, very, very soon. It is the new mega pack from Verreal, and it consists of a 10S4P pack, that's 40 cells, of the 21700 size cylindrical lithium ion cell. So these are the cells of choice in terms of size for the eskate community at the moment in higher performance boards. This is about a mid-level, mid-tier, mid-shelf type of board, but it is grabbing hold of the current trend in terms of the current cell size of choice for eskate. The particular 21700 cells in this board are from a company called Lishen, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and the cell code is LR2170SD. Sort of in keeping with the attempt to conquer the mid-tier that the Verreal RS is, this particular 21700 cell is also mid-shelf, mid-tier. If Verreal wanted to go for top shelf, absolute premium, costly cells of the same size, the same 21700 cell size, they would have gone for something like the Samsung 50E or something like that. Instead, what they have are these cells from Lishen, and as an overall pack, it still packs a hell of a punch. So this pack in here is what will be replacing the current Tesla pack for Verreal, the 19.2 amp hour pack, which I believe is made of Sanyo 2700B cells. So the 21700 cell is obviously a bit larger, and in a 10S4P packs a larger capacity. The capacity of this board is 20 amp hours or 720 watt hours. Now that equates to an insane amount of range. To put it in perspective, the Evolve GTR has a 14 amp hour battery. This has a 20. Now, of course, many other things can have an impact on range, rider weight being one of them. Currently, I tested this board at about 95 kilograms load, which included me and my backpack with my gear fully loaded. Wheel size might be another factor. On other boards having wheels this size, 105mm cloud wheels would have eaten into the range a little bit. Surprisingly, with wheels this big, I was still able to get a 53 kilometer range out of the board, which is very, very impressive. Other things, of course, are economy. You can have a big battery pack, but if it's powering gigantic motors, we're going to have less range. Looking at you, Raptor 2.1. But this 20 amp hour pack is powering 63mm motors, which aren't the biggest. They're bigger than Evolve's, but they're not the biggest that we see in the eskate world. But they're 170 kV rating, I believe. 170 kV rating, 1500 max watts each, means that all that power running through a bigger motor won't run into the overheating issues that, say, an Evolve board tends to have. In terms of pulleys, I have a 15 teeth pulley on the motor and a 40 teeth pulley on the wheels. I did varied testing across a flat ground circuit for about a third of it, my usual commute to work for another third, and then just burning around the neighborhood for about another third. So there was a lot of practical testing involved under various terrain conditions. The weather, however, was pretty much always the same. You know, the weather was about 25 degrees Celsius, give or take a couple of degrees on any given day. I did complete this test over 3 rides, and that was my eventual result. I think the thing that impressed me the most during this range test was the complete and utter lack of sag. Now, I believe this has a lot to do with the programming that Verreal have put into the board. Now, boosted boards were masters at this. They had a battery of a certain capacity, and they would actually program so that the battery would effectively be out of range before the battery was empty. to stop the battery venturing into that downward curve, that drop off, that voltage drop or battery sag that we all talk about. Boosted didn't suffer from that because they cut it off before it got that bad. Basically, you know, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, more than I understand, but from a rider experience, that's what you felt as a user experience result of what they built into the programming of the board. Verreal have done something similar in this respect. The reality is, I can't pinpoint where any sag kicked in of any meaningful level. I mean, another rider might be able to tell you differently, who are perhaps more in tune or more sensitive to that sort of voltage drop. Perhaps they measure it with instruments. I don't know. I didn't have those things with me at the time. But again, from a complete rider experience perspective, I experienced no noticeable sag at all, which is the first time for me since boosted. But we're talking about a 50-kilometer range board versus a 12 or 15-kilometer range board. That's how far things have come. When the board, through its programming, decided it was over, it was done, power just cut off, you know? And it didn't cut off violently. I know we, in the eskate world, use the phrase cut off in a negative sense these days. Not with this. It shut down and it didn't break, it just coasted. And through that coasting, I was able to slow down and step off of the board, no worries. I basically had access to the complete power range the board offered up until that point. I had no idea that I was that close to zero. Sure, I was on the very last bar of power on the remote, but to me the board felt like it could have kept going another 10 Ks when it stopped. It showed no signs that it was on its last legs until the power stopped funneling through from my user input to the board. Nothing at all. It just said, nah, battery's empty and you're not gonna have any more power. Either kick push the rest of the way or throw it in your altar bag and carry it home, which is exactly what I did. So 53 kilometers later on the 105 Cloud wheels, I've got nothing but praise. That is an incredible result for a board of this type. So there are two downsides with having a board with this much range in it. Number one, the board may outlast the remote. Now, I was touch and go, you know, whether or not I wanted to test this myself, but the fact is I did do my range test in 3 separate rides, and between the second and third ride, I gave in and charged my remote. I didn't want to run the risk of, you know, what would happen being stranded with a board with board charge and a remote with no charge. But I can tell you, if I had let it go, if I had not charged the remote, it would have been very, very close as to whether or not the remote was going to last the range of the board. So I recommend everyone out there who picks one of these up to do one thing, and that is if you're going out for a super, super, super long ride, as in you want to go out for 50 Ks, plan a stop along the way and bring a power bank with you so you can charge your remote whilst you have a coffee, a drink or a meal or whatever it is you want to do, so that you know you're gonna make it, you know you're gonna get your full ride's worth out of the board. The reason why I say you have to stop is because I did experiment with the remote and it turns out you can't charge it whilst riding, so you do actually need to physically stop to charge the remote a little bit. The other downside with this board is, of course, weight. You can't have a battery pack of this size and 63mm motors hanging off the back of it and expect it to be an easy thing to pick up and maneuver around the place. It is not. Funnily enough, I haven't weighed the board at the time of shooting this, but as soon as I turn off the camera, I will weigh it and I'll put the weight measurements up right here. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I wanted to share those results with you and exactly how I got them and the circumstances surrounding those tests or that test. If you're looking for a reasonably priced electric longboard that gets crazy range, something that is versatile, something that you can use a variety of different wheel sets with, something that does still have quality components like Ford trucks and motor mounts, etc. Has double kingpin trucks, has a very similar feel to other boards like Evolve that many of us know and love. Has a scroll wheel remote, Hobbywing ESC. It has a lot of ticks, it ticks a lot of boxes for a board in a mid-tier price range. And I have to admit, with the 105mm cloud wheels on here with the Discovery Core, this board with this battery is very, very much becoming one of my favorite setups that I've had. So thumbs up to Vic and the team at Verreal. All right, till next time, peace.